If any of you guys have seen my cinema rig build videos, then you know that I like to keep things nice and neat and clean. I don't like cables and clutter running all over the place or have anything that's going to hinder me in the filmmaking process. And so anytime that I find a product that helps me achieve that, then I'm more than willing to be able to share that with my audience. And I recently had a company reach out to me to review a couple products, but one of them is this Shimbol wireless ZO600M field monitor. Now this thing has already helped me out in a few ways, and I'm going to share that with you guys today. And so ready? Let's check it out. I was able to use the ZO600M from day one. I was actually anticipating it coming in. I knew it was coming in. I was tracking the package because that day I was actually filming a car scene for my recent short film called Swept Away. And so in that car scene, I had my Tilt-A-Hydra system set up on the back of a car with my Pocket 6K Pro on the DJI RS3 Pro gimbal. And normally I would have a transmitter set up on that, and then I would be inside the vehicle in the passenger seat with a Blackmagic View Assist 7-inch monitor, and then a receiver on that, and a cable going through both of them, and then batteries on both of them, and then the controls for the RS3 Pro. And that can be kind of a cumbersome setup. It's not super bad, but you know, I like minimal. And so by having this, they actually sent me the ZO1000 transmitters and receiver system as well, which I will be reviewing, so make sure you are subscribed for that. But I was able to set up the transmitter on the Tilt-A-Hydra system, run an HDMI over to the Pocket 6K Pro, and then I was able to sit inside the vehicle. You can actually see part of the car scene there. I was able to actually sit inside the vehicle and just have this monitor with just the controls to the DJI RS3 Pro, and I was able to get all the shots that I need. I didn't really experience any kind of dropouts. The latency was good. This thing's rated for 80 milliseconds, which is pretty typical within its price point. But what was really cool is not only was I able to receive the signal inside the vehicle, control everything, I could see everything well, the screen was good, I had my focus peaking on so I could see what was in focus. But then also with the ZO1000 system, I had the other receiver set up on a set monitor and have other members on set be able to watch what was going on the whole time. And it was just a very clean and efficient workflow. So I was very happy to use it that day. But then I've also used it on multiple projects since then. And so I've had this thing for a while actually. I should have reviewed it a while ago, but I've just been super busy. But I do have the experience with this, so I can be confident in everything I'm sharing with you guys. And so I'll get into kind of the specs, and then we'll dive into some of the menu features of this. But it's a 1920 by 1080p touchscreen display. It's capable of receiving a 1080p 60 frames per second signal through the HDMI in port. So that is something that you do want to be aware of, that if your camera is, say, a 4K or 6K or 8K camera, you want to make sure that it's capable of downsampling the HDMI to 1080p. So this monitor can receive it. Most of them are, but that is just something that I want to make a note to you guys. It's made of aluminum and plastic. It has a very rugged feel to it. It feels very, very solid. Now on the top, you have your power button, and then you have this kind of hump here, which is the antenna system. And then you have these 3 function buttons that you can program to work for whatever you want, like false colors or focus peaking or guides, things like that. So that way you can access them quickly. On the right side here, you've got your micro SD card slot, which is good for recording. It can actually record up to 1080p 60 frames per second, and it does it in a lighter codec, so you can use it for proxy workflows, things like that, and it does embed timecode on that. And then it's got a USB-C port. Down on the bottom, it's got the mounting quarter 20 mount, which is the only mounting port for this. So if depending on how you set your system up, you might have to use a magic arm or something like that. It's got speakers there on the bottom, and then on the left side here you've got your HDMI in, your HDMI out, as well as your headphone jack, and then you can also power it through DC power input. Now it is capable of handling 2 Sony MP style batteries. I don't know exactly how long the battery life is on this, but I can tell you I was very impressed by the battery life. I can put just one 970 on it, and that thing will run me an entire day of shooting. I don't ever really have to worry about like, okay, is this thing gonna die on battery? But it's also a very good quality monitor. The screen is good. It's got 1,000 nits of brightness, so if you're filming out in midday, you don't have to worry about not being able to see what's on the screen. And you don't have to worry about having to put a hood on it and all that stuff. 1,000 nits is more than enough. It's got 500 feet of wireless range, and again, that's with 80 milliseconds of delay time. But what's really cool about this monitor is it's both capable of being a transmitter and a receiver. So you can actually switch back and forth within the menu system, and you can either transmit to other ZO600M monitors or other Shimbol wireless systems and be able to connect to multiple devices. Or if you want to use this as a receiver and you say have another one transmitting, or like how I did on the car system where I had one of these transmitting and I was receiving on this, it's capable of doing both. So really, really cool on that feature. It does have an iOS app that is capable of recording as well, and you're able to use all the features within it. But I can tell you, you don't really need to use an app with this because everything is fully functional within the menu system, pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy to get to. And I can tell you that this does actually have quite a few more features than what a lot of monitors within its price point actually have. And so you have your wireless system, so you can change your input on your wireless from HDMI or from wireless signal. And for your wireless, you can set between 2 different RX modes. It has its SSID and password, which you can actually use the QR code there. You can set your channel. And then you have kind of some of the typical tools, although not all of them are found on monitors within this price point. You have your waveforms, you have your RGB parades, you have your histogram and your vector scope, and you can change the opacity of them. So if you still want to be able to see your image through it, you can, or if you want to see it better, you can just make it to where you can't see through it. Not all monitors come with a vector scope. I kind of like that because if you're shooting a scene to where, say, the lighting has just a really hard green shift, and you don't really notice it with your eyes, and you don't have a spectrometer like a Sekonic C800, then you can see where it's got like that, say, green spike or something using the vector scope, and you can try to compensate for that. Now, you do have your safe area, which you can set the ratio, the width, the colors for all of that. It says grip, but I think that's meant to be grid. That's about the only kind of flaw that I found with this. Maybe I'm missing something. If so, let me know down in the comment section. But if that is grid, it lets you turn on your grids, and then you can set between 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines to help get your proper composure. And then you have your anamorphic desqueeze. It's got quite a bit of options depending on what anamorphic lens you're using. It's got your markers for safety for your ratio. You can set between 16:9, 15:9, 13:9, 4:3, or you can even set it to user, and you can change all the colors for those safety markers as well. You've got your center marker, and you can set the color of that. You can change the width of that. Now, the next menu system, you have your focus peaking, which you can set between 4 different colors actually, and you can set your sensitivity for your focus peaking. And then it does have a zoom feature. Now, you would think that this, just clicking that makes it to where you're zoomed in, but no, it's actually better than that. It actually allows you to turn on and off the pinch to zoom feature. So you can just leave leave that on if you constantly pinch to zoom, or if you're worried about actually accidentally changing it, then you can turn that off. So that's a really cool feature. Then you have your zebras, which you can set your minimum and maximum. So if you use zebras often to judge your exposures, you can use that. You have false colors, which it does give you the range of false colors, and that will help you to see where your middle gray is, things like that. That's personally my main way of exposing, is through false colors, as well as using a light meter. I still use a light meter as well as a spectrometer on just about every set. And then you have monochrome, where you can set it to black and white if that helps you out. And then you have quite a few more settings here that are unique to monitors of usually much more expensive price points. So some of these features here that they're available in such a low price point is really cool. So 3D LUT, that's pretty normal, but it does have presets for most of the main cameras, and then you can actually set your own LUT, which you can see here. Let me turn that on, go to user. And then I have some of the buttery LUTs in for the Ursa Mini as well as the Pocket 6K. And then what's really cool about this monitor, which I haven't really seen on anything within this price point, is that you can set the gamma curve. Now, if you don't know what a gamma curve is, it's basically your contrast curve. And so you have the option of changing your gamma curve here based on what environment you're in. So that's a really cool feature. And then you have your HDR. You can set it for PQ or HLG. And then also you can set your color temperature. That's also a really cool feature. You can set it between a user value, 5600 or 6500 Kelvin. So, if you're using a monitor to judge your white balance, then you want to make sure that the color temperature is set accurately based on the environment that you're in. So if you're midday and it's 5600 Kelvin outside, then you want it set to 5600 Kelvin so you know that what you're seeing on the screen is accurate. So that's a really cool feature. And then it's got a teleprompter feature. I have not used the teleprompter feature. I normally, if I do use a teleprompter, is a much bigger one, but the fact that it has it is just cool as well. And then you've got your playback and recording. So you can actually set it to trigger through HDMI. It does, again, embed time code, things like that. You can set the file name, or it's got the playback function. And then you can actually lock the screen. So if you have everything set and you don't want to accidentally change anything, you can lock it. You've got your audio meters over here, and so you know if you're peaking or not. And then in your menu system, you've got where you can control the brightness, the contrast, saturation, sharpness, and then you can even adjust the individual RGB values. So you can, to an extent, be able to calibrate this monitor. In your settings, you have your scan for normal and underscan, backlighting, volume, and then you can format the SD card slot. And then for function, you can set the function buttons up here on the top for whatever you use mostly. Like you can see, I have mine set for false color, focus peaking, and markers. So those are the three that I use the most. False color, again, is my number one form of exposure tool that I use. And then peaking, of course, I use all manual cine lenses, so peaking is important to me. And then for your system menu, you have your language. You can see the version information for your firmware, and then you can do a software update, factory reset, find out a little bit more about the company, or one of the important ones is you can actually do your wireless mode here and switch between either transmitter or receiver. So again, I'm very impressed with this monitor. I have heard that they may be producing a 7-inch monitor. I really hope that they do, and I hope that it has SDI input on it because I will most likely be picking up one of those to go with my Ursa back there because it doesn't have HDMI out. And so I would highly recommend this monitor. Links are down in the description below. If you have any questions, I would be glad to hear from you guys, and as always, glad to answer those questions and help in any way that I can. You can leave those down in the comment section below. But other than that, that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope you learned something, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by.